All right, today we're jumping into one of the most powerful political stories ever told, George Orwell's Animal Farm. But we're not just going to treat it like a book report. Nope. Think of this as a political case study, a kind of blueprint for how a revolution, even one with the best intentions, can get twisted from the very, very beginning. And it all kicks off with one simple, electrifying idea.
And there it is. That's the idea that starts it all. Old Major, this wise old boar, he just boils down their entire miserable life into this one single sentence. See, this isn't just him complaining, right? It's a diagnosis. He's pointing a finger at a parasitic class and saying, this isn't bad luck, this is theft. This one idea, it's the ideological matchstick that's about to set the whole farm on fire. So before you can have a revolution, you need a dream, right? You need a vision. And that's this first phase. It's all about building that ideological framework. The thing that makes everyone believe that the impossible is actually just around the corner.
You know, what's so genius about Old Major's speech is just how simple it is. He hands the animals one single unifying enemy, man. Think about it. He defines man as this creature who only ever takes, never gives, and suddenly the solution seems just as simple. Get rid of man, you get rid of the problem. I mean, this is textbook revolutionary stuff. Identify the oppressor, and suddenly the path to freedom looks crystal clear.
And here you have it, the moral constitution for their new world. These aren't just, friendly suggestions. They're the bedrock, the core rules. You've got unity, all animals are comrades, and you've got equality. But I want you to really lock in on that last one. All animals are equal. Because that one is going to become the most important and the most tragically twisted rule of them all.
Of course, every great vision needs a theme song, and Beasts of England is it. But this is so much more than a song. It's a tool. It's for mobilization. It takes these big, abstract ideas like freedom and equality and melts them down into this powerful, emotional anthem that you just can't get out of your head. When they all sing this together, they're not just singing. They're basically practicing for the revolution. They're seeing that golden future right there in front of them.
Okay, so the dream is in place. The ideology is set. Now, let's watch it explode into reality.
What's so fascinating about this timeline is that it shows you something true about a lot of revolutions. They're not always planned down to the minute. You see, Old Major dies, and the pigs, the smart ones, they package his ideas into this system called animalism. But there's no date on the calendar. The actual rebellion? It's just a spontaneous burst of rage after Mr. Jones gets drunk and forgets to feed them. It's almost an accident. But it works. It only works because all that ideological kindling was already piled up, just waiting for a spark.
So they've won. And what's the first thing they do? They write a new constitution. The 7 commandments painted in big, bold, white letters right on the side of the barn for everyone to see. And the text is super clear about this. This is an unalterable law. Unalterable. This is supposed to be the permanent guarantee of their freedom. You're going to want to remember these rules because the whole story of Animal Farm is basically the story of how these unalterable laws get, well, altered.
So the revolution's a success. The tyrant is gone. Happy ending, right? Roll credits? Well, not so fast. This is actually where the real story kicks in. This is where we start to see the first tiny little cracks forming in the foundation of their brand new republic. And right away, the first harvest is a huge success. I mean, bigger than they ever had with Jones. It proves they can do it themselves. But, hang on, look closer at the reality here. The pigs? They didn't actually do any of the physical work. They just directed and supervised. They set themselves up as the brain workers. So in the very first moment of victory, a new class system is already being born. Wow.
Okay, now this next part, this is one of the quietest, but maybe one of the most chilling moments in the whole book. While everyone else is celebrating the harvest, feeling free for the first time, Napoleon makes this move. It's very quiet, very calculated. He takes 9 newborn puppies away from their moms, says he's going to be in charge of their education, and tucks them away in a loft. And pretty soon, the rest of the farm just forgets they're even there.
So you have to ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is this just a nice educational project? Or is Napoleon, right from the get-go, building himself a private army? A secret police force that's loyal only to him, raised in total isolation? This, right here, is the moment the tools of force get taken over by one person, way before anyone even thinks about using them. And then, bam! The
the first real test of their new society. The milk and the apples, they go missing. And it turns out the pigs are taking them for themselves. So how do they explain this? Well, this is where propaganda comes in. Squealer, who's basically the master of spin, comes out and he doesn't say, "Hey, we deserve it." No, he flips it. He frames it as a noble sacrifice. He says, "It is for your sake that we drink that milk and eat those apples." And just like that, you see language being twisted for the very first time to excuse inequality.
All right, let's just step back and put this all together. What if we actually seen happen in just the first few days of freedom? We've literally watched the seeds of the future tyranny get planted right in the fresh soil of the revolution.
So here's the real takeaway. The corruption of Animal Farm, it didn't start with big, dramatic acts of violence, not at all. It started quietly. It started with one group claiming to be the brain workers, with the secret education of a few, and with the justification of tiny little privileges. It all began the very moment the new leaders decided that, sure, all animals are equal, but that some are just a little more equal than others.
We are jumping straight into the heart of George Orwell's Animal Farm. We're going to look at that exact moment when a revolution born from this incredible hope starts to take a very, very dark turn. We'll explore how that dream of freedom in chapters 4 through 6 gets twisted into a total nightmare of control.
I mean, this is the question of the whole book, isn't it? How on earth does a movement that's all about liberation end up building a system that's even worse than the one it fought to overthrow? Well, the answer is in all these subtle shifts of power, in the propaganda, and in the fear that we're about to break down.
All right, so let's start at the absolute high point of the revolution. The animals have taken over, they're running the show, but of course their old master, Mr. Jones, well, you didn't think he was just gonna let it go, did you? He comes back with men and guns, ready to take back his farm.
And this is where Snowball really shines. He's not just fighting with brute force. The guy has been studying military history. Julius Caesar's campaigns, to be exact. So this isn't some chaotic barnyard brawl. No. This is a planned, tactical, and decisive victory. It's the moment that proves, beyond a doubt, that the animals can defend themselves. It's pure triumph.
So to mark this incredible victory, they create their own medals. Snowball and Boxer, the super strong horse, they're named the greatest heroes of the battle. Now this moment right here is absolutely crucial. You have to lock this detail away because it cements Snowball in everyone's memory as a decorated, celebrated war hero. Just remember that. It's gonna be a big deal later.
But you know how it goes. That unity, it doesn't last long. With the farm now secure, the big question on everyone's mind is, okay, what's next? And right away, it becomes clear that the two leading pigs, Snowball and Napoleon, have two totally different answers. This really gets to the heart of the conflict. You've got Snowball, the idealist, the innovator. He's dreaming of this amazing windmill that'll bring electricity, make life easier, and get them all a 3-day work week. He's selling a future of progress. And then you have Napoleon. He's the pragmatist, the authoritarian. He says all that is just a waste of time. The only thing that matters is filling the food manger, right now. It's a battle between a bright, ambitious future and a very simple, controlled present.
So the whole farm is split right down the middle. It's all supposed to come down to a democratic vote at the big Sunday meeting. But Napoleon, well, let's just say he has a very different idea of how to win a debate.
And man, Snowball gets up there and just gives the speech of a lifetime. He's not just talking about gears and pulleys, he's painting this beautiful picture of the future. A future with electric lights and hot water, where machines do all the hard work. He's so passionate, the crowd is eating it up. It's a done deal. There's no doubt Snowball is going to win the vote.
Napoleon gets up, he doesn't say a word, he doesn't argue, he just gives this strange sidelong look at Snowball. And then he lets out this high-pitched whimper. And that's the signal. And out of nowhere, the barn is just flooded with these huge, terrifying dogs. Remember those puppies he took to educate in secret? Well, they're not puppies anymore. They are a vicious private army, and they make a beeline straight for Snowball, chasing him right out of the barn and off the farm forever. And just like that, the debate is over. Not because someone had a better idea, but because one side used brute force to silence the other. Napoleon immediately announces that the Democratic Sunday meetings are canceled. From now on, a special committee of pigs, led by him of course, will make all the decisions. The era of debate is finished. The era of dictatorship has just begun.
Okay, so Snowball's out of the picture, and Napoleon has his attack dogs. What's next? He's got to lock down his power, and the way he does it is just brilliant, in a terrifying way. He doesn't just make new rules, he starts messing with the old ones.
You gotta remember, these 7 commandments, they were like the unchangeable constitution of Animal Farm. They were painted right there on the barn for everyone to see. So when the pigs just decide to move into the farmhouse, the other animals get a little uneasy. They're thinking, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure there's a rule about sleeping in beds.
And this is where the propaganda machine kicks into high gear. It's so clever. They don't get rid of the rule. They just add 2 little words to it. Squealer, Napoleon's mouthpiece, comes out and explains that the rule was never against beds, it was against sheets, a human invention. And the animals, who can't read that well, they start to doubt themselves. Maybe I just misremembered. It's gaslighting, plain and simple.
And this just keeps happening, right? The core principles of the revolution start to get chipped away. The pigs start trading with humans, which the animals were pretty sure was forbidden. But whenever they raise a concern, Squealer is right there to tell them, nope, you're imagining things. That was never a rule. They're being made to feel like their own memories are wrong.
So, Napoleon is the undisputed boss now. But there's a problem with being the boss. When things go wrong, it's your fault. So what do? Well, if you're a budding tyrant, you find someone else to blame. You need a public enemy number 1. You need a scapegoat. And boy, does he have the perfect one in mind.
After a huge storm absolutely demolishes the half-built windmill, all their hard work just gone, there's a moment of despair. Before anyone can even think to blame the storm, or maybe the shoddy building plans, Napoleon seizes the moment. He sniffs the ground and screams, "Snowball, he did this! The traitor snuck back in the night and destroyed everything!"
And from that moment on, Snowball is the boogeyman. Literally everything that goes wrong is his fault. Is a bucket of milk spilled? Snowball. Did the crops fail? Snowball must have mixed weeds in with the seeds. He becomes this invisible, all-powerful enemy that can be blamed for every failure and justify every new harsh rule Napoleon makes. It's a way to unite everyone, not in hope, but in shared fear and hatred.
And check this out. They don't just make him a current enemy, they go back and completely rewrite history. Squealer starts this whole disinformation campaign to convince everyone that Snowball was always a secret agent for the humans. That whole hero thing at the Battle of the Cowshed? A lie. The Animal Hero Medal? Just a legend he made up. And when the animals say, "But I remember seeing him fight bravely," Squealer just tells them their memories are faulty. It's the ultimate power move. Control the past and you control the present.
And that brings us to the final chilling question here, doesn't it? When the rules can be changed overnight, when today's hero can be turned into tomorrow's villain, and when you're told that you can't even trust what you saw with your own eyes, what's left? I mean, who can you possibly trust?
We are digging deep into the final brutal chapters of George Orwell's classic Animal Farm. So, how do revolutions betray their ideals? It's a huge question, right? One that echoes through history. And, Orwell's Animal Farm gives us a bone-chillingly clear answer. He shows us how a dream of freedom can just curdle into an absolute nightmare. Not because of some enemy at the gates, but because of the corruption that grows from the inside out.
All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to dive deep into this dark transformation. We'll go chapter by chapter through the end of the book to really map out the anatomy of this fallen revolution and see, step by step, how that old saying is true. Absolute power really does corrupt absolutely. So first up, control through fear. It's like page 1 of the totalitarian playbook. You want to control people, you make them scared. And to justify that fear, that terror, you've got to have an enemy. You need a scapegoat.
And who's the scapegoat? Well, it's Napoleon's old rival, Snowball. Napoleon turns him into this phantom menace. I mean, anything and everything that goes wrong on the farm. The windmill collapses, Snowball did it. Someone misplaced a key, must be Snowball. He becomes this mythical, invisible traitor, a ghost that Napoleon uses to literally haunt the other animals into obedience.
And this is where it gets really dark. This made-up threat is the excuse for a brutal purge. It's totally reminiscent of historical show trials, right? Napoleon's dogs just drag these terrified animals out and they confess to the most ridiculous crimes. All linked back to Snowball, of course. Just think about it for a second. Confessing that Snowball incited you in a dream? Come on! This has nothing to do with truth. It's pure theater, a horrifying public spectacle meant to just shatter everyone's will to resist. And the result is just
grim, a pile of bodies. For the very first time since the rebellion against the humans, animal has killed animal, their comrades. The ground is literally soaked with their blood. And that state-sponsored terror, it works. It completely silences any hint of dissent. Napoleon's power is now cemented, not with respect, but with pure, raw fear.
Okay, so once fear is the new normal, what's next? Well, the regime moves on to controlling reality itself. Because, as Orwell famously pointed out, if you can control the past, you can absolutely control the present.
You start to see this in the language. It changes completely. Napoleon isn't just Comrade Napoleon anymore. Oh no, he's our leader, father of all animals. A full-blown cult of personality is being built. They're writing poems about him. Every single good thing that happens is because of his genius. He's basically become untouchable, infallible, a god in his own barnyard.
So you might be asking, how do you justify that bloody purge we just saw? Easy. You just rewrite the law. The pigs sneak up to the barn wall and just add 2 little words to the 6th commandment. It's so sinister, but also kind of brilliant, right? For the other animals, who can barely read, they just think their memory is failing them. It's classic gaslighting. Their own government is tricking them into believing that this kind of state violence was always okay.
And it doesn't stop there. This next one just perfectly shows their hypocrisy. So the pigs find a case of whiskey, have a massive party, and ups, what about that rule against alcohol? No problem. Another commandment gets a little tweak. No animals shall drink alcohol to excess. The core principles of the revolution, all about rejecting human vices, are literally being rewritten overnight just so the new ruling class can have what it wants.
All right, so we've seen the fear, we've seen the lies. And this whole downward spiral into tyranny is perfectly, tragically summed up in the fate of one character, the farm's most loyal worker, the horse, Boxer.
Boxer is, he's the heart and soul of this whole operation. He's the true believer, the guy who works harder than anyone, sacrificing everything for what he thinks is the greater good. His mottos, I will work harder, and Napoleon is always right. They capture the total unquestioning faith of the common animal. He genuinely believes all his hard work is building a paradise. But after years of just destroying his body for the farm, he collapses. He's given them everything he has. So how does the new leadership repay his loyalty? They promise him the best care, that they're sending him to a veterinarian. But the van that shows up, it has horse slaughterer written right on the side. He's not going to a hospital. He's being sold to the knacker.
And then, Squealer, the regime's master propagandist, comes back and gives a performance for the ages. He spins this completely fake, tear-jerking story about Boxer's heroic last moments. He claims Boxer died peacefully, whispering "Long live Comrade Napoleon" with his final breath. It's just stunning. They don't just betray and kill him. They steal his memory and twist it into propaganda.
And here's the final disgusting twist. The money they got from selling Boxer, the ultimate symbol of the loyal working class, what do they use it for? They buy another case of whiskey. His entire life's work is literally traded for a bottle of booze, the very vice the revolution was supposed to destroy. You can't get more cynical than that. It's the absolute lowest point of the betrayal.
Okay, so let's jump forward. Years have passed. Most of the original animals, the ones who actually remembered the rebellion, they're gone now. The farm itself is doing better. It's richer, but only for the pigs and the dogs. And this sets the stage for the final, absolutely shocking conclusion.
Remember the 7 commandments, the foundation of their entire new society? Well, they're gone, just scraped off the side of the barn. All the pretense is over. No more sneaky edits in the middle of the night. Now they can just erase the past completely.
And this is what they replace it with. One single maxim. It's probably one of the most famous lines in all of literature, and for good reason. It's paradoxical, it's cynical, and it perfectly sums up the new reality. It uses the language of equality to justify a system of total inequality. This is it. This is the official death certificate of the revolution. The whole story comes to a head at a dinner party. The pigs are hosting the neighboring human farmers. Yep, the same guys they kicked out in the rebellion. And what do these old enemies bond over? Mr. Pilkington actually stands up and gives a toast, congratulating Napoleon on how good he's gotten at exploiting his own workers. He says the animals on Animal Farm work harder on less food than any other animals around. They're literally praising each other's methods of oppression. And that leads to the final haunting image. The other animals are peering in through the window, and they look from the pigs to the men and back again, and they can't tell the difference. They're indistinguishable.
The revolution didn't just fail, it came full circle. It simply replaced one set of tyrants with another, who turned out to be even more brutal, all while flying the flag of freedom.
So that leaves us with this really unsettling question to chew on. When the oppressed become the oppressors, does that mean the revolution failed? Or did it succeed? Was the real goal ever actually equality? Or was this whole thing, right from the very start, just a power grab, a path to a newer, more efficient kind of tyranny? That's the question Orwell leaves hanging in the air for all of us.